Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're digging into historical periodization, that tricky business of slicing up continuous history into named blocks, like ancient, medieval, modern. Our mission for you today is to quickly get a handle on the main systems historians use to frame global history. And importantly, to maybe reveal some of the, cultural biases often embedded in them. So the first thing our sources really zero in on is this basic tension. On one hand, periodization is super useful, right? For analysis, for understanding cause and effect. It helps make sense of things. But on the other hand, all those boundaries, they're inherently kind of, arbitrary.
Oh,
And
yeah.
subjective. They change.
Oh, absolutely. And it's fascinating how arbitrary they can be. I mean, think about the conventional end of antiquity in the West.
Right, 476 CE, the fall of the Western Roman Empire.
Exactly. Why that specific date? Why does it stick so much in, the popular imagination? It's essentially an intellectual construct, isn't it? It takes one European political event and sort of elevates it.
Makes it sound like a universal turning point.
Precisely. And that act, that intellectual centering of one culture's political shift, that's the core challenge we're talking about.
That makes sense. I mean, focusing on a decline somewhere might completely miss a boom somewhere else. So, okay, setting aside the bias for just a second, how do historians actually manage this? What are the main frameworks they use?
Well, they generally fall into three main types. You've got the straightforward chronological one, ancient, medieval, modern. That's probably the most familiar.
Okay.
Then there's the material approach based on dominant technology. Think Stone Age, Bronze Age, Iron Age.
Right, technology driving the name.
And finally, you have thematic frameworks, things like, say, the Information Age we talk about now.
Gotcha. So let's use that material framework for the earliest periods, prehistory, right, which generally ends around 3500 BCE.
Yeah, conventionally, with Sumerian cuneiform, the first known writing, before that, it's all prehistory. And if we zoom into the Stone Age within that, well, that's where the human story really kicks off.
And that's a huge period.
Oh, massive. The Paleolithic is like 2.5 million years, defined mostly by nomadic hunter-gatherers. But the sources really highlight a cognitive shift, especially in the Upper Paleolithic. There's this hypothesis about the emergence of integrated intelligence.
Integrated intelligence, what does that mean in practice? Like, what changed?
It's basically the ability to generalize, to see analogies, the insight that lets you look at an animal bone, something used for food, and suddenly see it. The idea of it as a potential tool.
So making conceptual leaps.
Exactly. Compare that mental flexibility to the Neolithic Revolution, starting maybe 8000 BCE. That's defined by agriculture, a huge systemic change.
And the population impact was enormous, wasn't it?
Staggering. We're talking world population jumping from maybe 2 million around 10,000 BC to about 45 million by 3000 BC, all thanks to agriculture allowing denser settlement.
Wow. Okay, that brings us forward quite a bit. Let's talk about the Middle Ages. That classic European bloc, maybe 500 to 1450 CE, usually means feudalism, the church being central, fragmentation. But I know our sources really challenge that simple picture, especially globally.
They absolutely do. That term Middle Ages, it really only fits if your focus is squarely on Western Europe. Globally, it makes more sense to call it something like the post-classical polycentric age.
Polycentric, meaning multiple centers of power and innovation, not just Europe.
Precisely. I mean, think about the Islamic Golden Age, roughly 8th to 13th centuries. Baghdad's House of Wisdom was a powerhouse for algebra, medicine, engineering, and critically, between, say, 700 and 1500 CE, you had intense connection between the Islamic world and powerful Chinese dynasties. Sophisticated trade, knowledge flowing back and forth.
So far from being dark everywhere.
Not at all. You could argue this was the world's first truly sustained global age in terms of interconnectedness and growth in multiple regions.
That reframing really sets the stage for what comes next, the early modern period, maybe 1450 to 1800. Often defined by the scientific revolution, the Enlightenment.
Rationalism, liberty, skepticism, all that.
Yeah.
Yes. But here's a major paradox the sources bring up.
Okay.
It's called the Great Divergence. Basically, much of the intellectual progress and, frankly, the material wealth building up in the West during this time, it was often funded by capital extracted pretty violently.
Through colonialism.
Yes, colonial exploitation of resources and labor, particularly in Africa and Asia. That wealth accumulation fueling Western development was deeply asymmetrical, a crucial point.
Which then sort of turbocharges us into the contemporary era, post-1945, often called the Information Age, right? The third industrial revolution.
Yeah, and the start is often pinned to the invention of the transistor in 1947. That feels like a concrete marker.
But is that where we still are?
Well, that's the debate now, isn't it? With AI biotechnology, the pace of change is so rapid. Some argue we might already be entering a distinct fourth industrial revolution. Ultimately, these boundaries, they have to make sense locally. Chinese dynastic cycles operate on a different time scale than, say, Western micro-eras. Context is key.
So wrapping this up, what's the takeaway for you listening right now? If, as our sources suggest, truly understanding the significance and causality of any historical era requires some distance, and we're living through a time defined by incredibly fast, maybe overlapping changes, the end of one age, the possible start of another, how well can we actually map, let alone understand, the forces shaping this very moment we're in? That's something to think about.